Hello, interwebs. Welcome to Moral Gamer. This session is actually more on cleaning, and so I'm gonna show you how I clean my retro games. Now, some people will disagree with the method. You're welcome to disagree. Hi. I'm up here. I'm not showing my face because it's easier just to focus on what's going on down here, because this is where all the fun's gonna happen here, and I'd rather have things zoomed in than actually have things off. But I'm going to go over a couple different types here. We've got your NES games. We've got your Game Boy Advance, Genesis. Each game is going to be roughly the same thing. It's going to be roughly the same thing. The only difference is how you're going to get these apart. So you can get a bag of tools. These generally run from like 12 to 15 bucks on Amazon, something like that. I'll try to remember to put a link. And I get this at the dollar store. This is just basically a cotton swab assortment. I don't use the cotton tips, but sometimes I use these. This is basically like a cotton mesh. Works pretty well. So Q-tips, don't use cotton balls unless it's like on surface stuff. But your Q-tips are going to be your biggest friend right now. And then I use isopropylene alcohol. People say don't use alcohol. I've also heard brash polish for the contacts is pretty good. I tend to use alcohol. That's what I've used all the time. Thing to remember, though, is that alcohol is corrosive. So for your first initial cleaning, especially if it's a very grimy game, something you got from a pawn shop or something, that's going to be where you're going to have the majority of your cleaning coming in. So for this session, I'm really going to focus on use of the Tri-Wing. Tri-Wing is good for your Game Boy Advance cartridges. Here I've got Treasure Planet, not a really high buck game, but whatever. And then for my NES, I've got Deadly Towers, and for that, I'm going to use this type of hex bit in there. I forget which one's which. I think this will be the one I'll be using on all of them. But there's a smaller hex bit that comes with the particular set that I bought. So, it's good for what it is. It's good for what it is. So, I'm going to move my cotton swabs back here, and we're going to start with the NES. NES has 3 screws and a hinge. So let me get one more thing I'm going to get here, which is probably not the best, but I find it very useful. And I keep it away from the games themselves, but a magnetic plate. This way I have something that once I drop the screws in there, the screws aren't going to get lost. If you lose screws, it's not good. Okay, this was a smaller bit. So I'm actually sticking the smaller hex bit in. It's going to be 3 screws. I'm just going to twist them. This is also how you verify your boards. So there's one. Again, it's in there. It's not going anywhere. Magnetic bowl for your screws helps you prevent losing any of them. So that's why I use it. There's my second screw. Oh, needs a little bit more. Second screw. And third screw. This one just thought I've had this out a couple times because I can feel it skipping, but there we go. So 3 screws, and then, like I said, it's got a hinge. It's going to hinge open. And most of that is filler. Most of that in there is going to be filler. Now, let me actually, and this was unplanned, but let me actually get you a Japanese, Chinese cartridge. And, of course. Well, I'm not going to open this one up, even though it's a knockoff cartridge. But you can see that your Chinese cartridges, your Japanese ones, are about the same size as the board. The rest of this is all because Nintendo wanted that VCR look when they basically had when they released the Nintendo in the US. So your boards are going to be small. You're not getting gypped or anything. Just go with it. Not much I can really say. This is what I expect. So what I do at this point is I take my board itself, and I'm going to get a Q-tip, and I'm going to Want to be careful here, but get it wet, rub it along the outside, get the additional moisture off, and go with the grain of the contacts. Go with the grain of the contacts. A lot of old cleaners used to go right and left. That's not always good. This is actually not too bad here. So just going to clean your contacts. By cleaning your contacts, I'm picking up a little bit of dirt there. Maybe you can see, maybe you can't on that side up there. You're going to go with the contacts on all your cleaning. All your cleaning. While you have the board out, if you're getting a high-end, valuable, or rare game, always look at your board. You're going to get serial numbers here. You can look these chips up. Make sure which ones actually correspond with the game that you got. This way, if you're buying it on eBay, always look for a board pick, and always when you get it, from the time you get it, open it up and whatnot. I would strongly recommend recording yourself opening it, so that this way you can go back to eBay and you can basically say to whoever the seller was, this wasn't the game. This wasn't the game if they're trying to rip you off, because we've got some people who have like been selling Chrono Triggers and stuff like that, where it's actually Madden inside a Chrono Trigger. So you don't want to get ripped off. That's the main thing. So that's actually pretty clean. This Deadly Towers was pretty well taken care of. So I'm going to put this aside here, and then next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the cartridge itself. Now this is a pretty clean game there. Don't have to do much. This is where I might use one of these if I had to do a lot of surface area. Otherwise, a Q-tip, cotton ball, anything will work just fine on larger surface areas, especially when you're not dealing with. I like to preserve these because they're a lot cleaner than a cotton swab. But for this point, I'll use a cotton swab, or not cotton swab, but a cotton ball. Give it a good wipe down there. I need to get some of the alcohol off. That's a little too much. Give it a good wipe down. I would try to avoid the stickers. The stickers themselves, those will get too wet. And then get down here right where the contacts rest. That's where you can see I picked up some dirt from the contacts there. That's where you're going to get most of the contact dirt. The inside of the cartridge is generally never exposed to the elements. If it has been, you kind of have to wonder what they were doing. So then I usually put these vertical or something like that. Try to get them as straight up and down as possible, so that this way I can actually get it to air out. So let's clean the other side of it. If you're an older gamer like me and you've got kids, teach your kids how to do this, by the way. Teach them how to take care of their games. Teach them when they're young, and it's a good skill because it transfers into other stuff. When you can take good care of your stuff, I mean, it's called stewardship. The better you take care of something, the longer it's going to last. So I'm going to set this aside to dry here. Got a little bit on the label unexpectedly, but we can make that work. Okay, so now that I've got that done, legs are going to sleep here. Okay, so now I've got that done, let's move on to the Genesis. These are going to have to dry, so I'm going to do the Genesis. Genesis only has the 2 screws, and your label should not go over. You can tell it's a bad label if it goes over the seam. And this one, notice it's a skinnier one that I use for NES. Genesis, it's the fatter. What is this, a hex lock? I just match the heads up basically, and the tools match or they don't. These ones are easier because they actually stick out, and I can pull them out with my fingernail once I get them in the right spot. And Genesis does what Nintendo don't. You'll see that in a second here. So it doesn't hinge open, it actually just pulls straight open. But for me, it's easier to hinge it open just like the NES. Genesis does what Nintendo don't because it actually fills up the entire cartridge space. So there you have it. Again, flip it over to the front. If you have any questions, you'll look right on the chip. The board's gonna have a huge chip on it that'll tell you this is Konami FV0141A. Not that I think someone's going to fake an Animaniacs board, but you never know. Maybe I lucked out and they actually had a better game in here. Like maybe this is hardcore or something. Contra hardcore for those of you who sick thoughts out there. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to swipe these contacts. This one's not very dirty. Probably wasn't played much. I don't blame them. It's Animaniacs. Not a lot of high demand for Animaniacs. Yeah, this is a pretty clean board here. If I was picking up a lot of dirt, I would go over it a couple times, but not happening tonight. Actually, I do want to clean off this chip though, because this chip has a little bit of residue on it. Don't know what that's from. One of the games somebody gave me as a gift, I found in it, and I can actually, where is it? It's actually on my board here. Nope. Here it is. This quad Desert Fury. This one had a lot of water damage in it, and I'll show you that as well. But cleaning the contacts, since this didn't get very dirty, I'll just shove that in there, clean the contact area, both front and back. This is not picking up much dinge. I mean, I doubt this game was really played. So, and if you want, you can get a larger surface cleaner, cotton ball, cotton pad, depends what you want to use. I'm going to use a cotton ball again. So I don't clean the label, but I clean the inside, clean the backs. This is not picking up much at all. This was pretty well taken care of. So I'm going to set these out to dry. And we're going to go, just not picking up much at all. So I'm going to go to Treasure Planet now. Treasure Planet is using the Tri-Wing. The set that I have has 3 different Tri-Wings. This is a Tri-Wing I bought earlier off of Lixang. Lixang I think is gone now, but I bought it earlier for when I thought I was going to get into retro gaming and stuff. So again, I'm throwing it in the magnetic. Magnetic just keeps me from losing my bolts there. Unlike the other ones, this is actually going to slide, so I have to slide it. You can hear it click a little bit, and then with that slide, there you go. There you're going to have your board. If it's a game with the battery, your battery's going to be sitting like right about there, usually on one side or the other. So once again, and you use a cotton swab, not a cotton ball on the contacts, because cotton swab is much tighter threads. These threads are not going to get stuck in anything. It's only one side with the contacts, so that's what you mostly have to worry about cleaning. This one's got a little bit of dust in it, this Treasure Planet. Somebody must have had some fun with it, but it didn't sit for too long unprotected. So always go with the grain, never go against. Want to clean it out. And then for good measure, I usually swab down the back, and this you can rub back and forth. Oh, wow, this is picking up some nicotine there. Oh, wow, I'm picking up nicotine. Dang. Somebody must have smoked with this or something like that at one point. So I'm picking up some like yellow, which is usually like nicotine in these. If you get it from a house of someone who smoked a lot, you're gonna find a lot of nicotine, a lot of yellow comes off the games. At least that's been my experience. And if you get a little smell inside, oh yeah, oh shoot, wow, that does smell. Okay. So it looks like they cleaned their games, but this one definitely has some yellow in there. It's again, if the game came from the house of a smoker, it's usually a good sign of nicotine. Not that it damages the game, just that I'm going to reuse this one since it's still mostly clean. It's just that it accumulates, and you can kind of smell it. It's not good for your electronics when you're smoking a lot around them, and you're getting that smell, and you're getting those residue inside it. It's not good for the boards. Can do damage over time, corrosive over time. But yeah. So I should actually have a nicer little studio for this, but hey, you do what you gotta, right? So now that I've got these cleaned, let's go back and we're gonna put the NES one back together. Maybe not, still a little wet at this point. So, okay, I'm letting these dry. Let me show you the damage, the water damage on this quad. And this one's already been cleaned once, but you're still going to see some of the water damage. So once again, I'm going to use the Tri-Wing. The Tri-Wing is how you open a Game Boy Advance game. And so you can see the label. The label is kind of crinkled there. You can see it a little bit on the sides. That crinkling is because water got in the label, it soaked it. The adhesive doesn't stick as well, so it bubbles up a little bit. So that's one good sign of water damage. Another good sign of water damage is, hopefully I didn't clean this one too well. But when I originally had to clean this one, there was like a white film along the All right, we're good. We're good. There was a white film along the contacts of the board. Okay, well, what that is that's rust setting in. That's usually mineralization of the components on the board, stuff like that, minerals from the water connecting to it. So you don't want that. If you see a game like that when you get it, that's a sign. It can work. It can work. It can be okay. But at that point in time, if it's a collectible, something like, say, I've got Metroid. Where is it? I've got Metroid Zero Mission right here. If I saw that on a Metroid Zero Mission, I would definitely return it. I would not put up with that on a game that's one that I really wanted and one that's not a filler title. So, in addition to that, I don't know if you can see it, but there's brown right in there, right in that little. Let me see if I can't even swab it out to show you some. There's a brown residue right in there, and if I can get this in, I can. Yep. So you're seeing that? That's beyond dirt right there. That's not dirt. That is actually water damage within the cart, and it's hard to clean it out. So one of the things that this kit came with, and I like this. I like that is this came with a little brush, so I can take my brush, put it in there, and use that to get in some of those crevices and whatnot. You could really do it with any brush you want. I would not use the brush on the board. I would use something softer, but I can use that for getting into more of the niches and whatnot. Try to sweep out as much as I can. The alcohol really comes in handy for the plastic cleaning. Again, too much alcohol on a board, it is corrosive, so you will wear it out over time, so it's better to use a non-corrosive cleaner. But alcohol works just fine for like 1 or 2 cleanings, maybe when you first get it. Dang mosquitoes. Tell you what, happy 4th of July. You get chewed up while you're watching fireworks and crap. But any rate, though, so the brush, really good, really good. Not much more I can show you on water damage ones. Since I've cleaned this one out, I actually have to leave it for a little bit, let everything air out before I put it back together. So at this point, my NES one, yeah, this is shoot, this is not drying up as fast as I hoped it would. Okay, this side is dry, but the other side isn't. So let's do it the Genesis one then. So Genesis one, these just shell together. It's not even a hinge, just shells together. Your cartridges, your contacts are going to stick out there. So put it in. Actually, it'd probably be easier to do it the other way. Put it in. The chip is always going to face forward. Sandwich it, and then black screws. If you get the kit that I have, it's the larger of the 2 security bits there. I mean, it's pretty easy there. And you want to make sure that you're slow near the end. You don't want to strip it, because if you strip it, then the game's not going to hold together very well. You don't want your game falling apart. So I'm a little slower, more deliberate with my turns at the end. until it feels snug. Snug, but I don't want to turn it too much. So right there, that's Genesis put back together. Let's get our treasure planet. Okay, yep, that one's dry enough. Yeah, that's dry enough. Okay, so the chips and everything always face forward in a Game Boy Advance. You want to put the top slightly below. You'll see a little crease up there, and then you slide it upwards. It clicks into place. It's usually a copper-looking screw. Once again, I'm going to use my tri-wing. Where did I put my tri-wing? Here it is. So got that in. And again, you want to twist it until it is snug. You don't want to twist it to the point where it's you don't want to twist it to the point where it spins. You just want to twist it till it's snug, and don't force it. If you force it, you strip the screw and you make them harder to repair, harder to deal with a later point in time. So yeah, okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. All right. So NES is interesting because the front of the cartridge, let's be on the safe side, get this capped. Front of the cartridge is going to have a guide to it. So that's the front. It's going to have that guide to it. So you can tell once you have it put in, because it clips right into place there. Like everything else so far, your chip is going to go on the front. And it's got these little tabs back here. Those are going to hinge together. And then you got to put your 3 screws in. 1, 2, 3. And it's the smaller of the 2. Like everything else, screw it in. Make it snug. Don't make it too deep. You spin it. Bad news. Now NES cartridges are okay if you spin them a little bit. I don't recommend it, but if you do, because of the hinge is going to hold them together for the most part. So as long as at least one of the bottom screws are snug but not stripped, you're okay. If they are both stripped, then it's going to be more likely that this will spread apart, and you don't want that to spread apart, especially when you're putting it into a game system, or if you're doing it old-fashioned way, right in the side. That side loader will sandwich it together, but your top loading devices not as well. So that is cleaning your old games. Off camera here, I'm going to put this this water damaged one back together. But for the most part, as always, like, subscribe, comment, and share. Support links below help us out. This is cleaning your old games. Maybe next time I can show you some Super Nintendo games. Super Nintendo games are basically the same as an NES game, just a little smaller. I mean, everything else kind of stems off the same as what you're getting here. I mean, actually, let me just show you quick. This will be fairly easy if you're a Game Boy collector as well. Game Boy and Game Gear. Game Gear is a little more difficult, but Game Boys I can show you fairly easy. Got Street Fighter here. So Game Boy uses, where did I put it? There it is. Same pin connector as the NES. So same pin connector as the NES. Like the Game Boy Advance, it slides, and then it just sits there like that. You can take the board out. Take the board out, do all the cleaning you need to, put it back in. I mean, cleaning them is all going to be the same. You're gonna brush the contacts, get underneath it, and then once again, slide it down, slide it up. This is the same way all the Game Boy games are. All the Game Boy games use the same cartridge method, where it kind of slides up, leaves that little lip, and then you open it. So, you know what? Screw it. I do have a Super Nintendo game within reach, so without having to do too much. And coincidentally, I just finished showing you a Street Fighter on NES. Coincidentally, I also have the SNES version of Street Fighter. Now, unlike Nintendo, which had them on the back, Super Nintendo has them on the front. I've already cleaned this cartridge, so I'm not really going to need to clean this one either. But it's going to be same principles. It's always going to be the same when you're cleaning them. Super Nintendo, like Nintendo, have the hinge, so tabs there. Your board. Now something different. Super Nintendo versus Nintendo. Super Nintendo is backwards. Your chips are going to go towards the bottom, at least on the ones that I've worked on. The chips face down, towards away from the label, versus NES, which has the chip, NES, Genesis, and so forth, has the chip facing towards the label. So that's something to keep in mind. But it's got those little tabs in there. You cannot put it in backwards. See, the tab's not going to line up if I try to put it in backwards. So that's a little safety. But check your chips out. Make sure it's the right game. Put it back in. Get the hooks. Got those little hooks there. Get them to go right on. Clamp it together. I need to stabilize this for next time. So I'm just working on an upside down lid. But an upside down lid is nice because it's got the little rims around the side. So once again, I put my screws back in. The screws, front right there. NES has them on the back, SNES has them on the front. Game Gear games are always scary. In fact, I think I'll cover, what do I have left here? N64 games and Game Gear games. Yeah, I could possibly do a Game Gear game. Show you. Could possibly do that. I'm not necessarily cleaning any at this point, but here we go. Let's just do it and get it over with. Show you all the major retro cartridges. So N64, Game Gear. Game Gear uses the Genesis one. Stick her in there. Oh no, it uses the NES one. So I'm doing this on a copy of Madden because Madden, if something happens, not generally worth much, but these are a pain in the butt to pull apart because you actually have to pull them apart. They're back here. There's a couple tabs. The tabs, you have to feel around a little bit. You have to feel around a little bit for those tabs in there because all of this is stuck together with tabs. In fact, I usually use a pocket knife or something. Very, very, very careful. Especially if it's a rare game like Mega Man or something. Mega Man on Game Gear is like one of the rarest games on Game Gear. I usually stick it in the back and try to pop this open. These are always a pain in the butt, but once I get them, I get it to the point where it starts moving, I can get it along the side there. And you can kind of hear there's tabs in it that are clicking. And I'm having to separate those tabs. There we go. See, because there's little tabs there that don't want to let go, especially if the game's never been taken apart. That's why I'm doing Madden. You really got to be careful. If you're a Game Gear collector at all, really be careful on these. Because if you break those tabs, not as big of a deal, but you want to be careful that you don't end up breaking the board. You don't end up screwing up your game forever. Because that right there, that would be a pain. So, board comes out. Clean the whole thing. Board goes back in. Once you press it together, you're going to hear that snap. That's tab here, 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 and here, all coming together. So listen for the snap. Try and get as close to my mic as possible. I mean, it's really pointless to have the screw in here since you've got the tabs, but the screw is just kind of a tamper, anti-tamper thing. And I'm twisting until I feel the pressure. Oh, this one's stripped because I should be feeling something by now. Yeah, I should be feeling something by now, but this one doesn't want to stop spinning. Yeah, I should feel some type of resistance, but I'm not. So that tells me that this one's already stripped at some point, probably a previous owner. I'm gonna stick that in my Game Gear box here. Got a couple Game Gear games. N64. Like Genesis, couple screws there. And my understanding is that there's a hidden screw underneath. Oh, it's the smaller one. So I'm taking this apart. Okay, there's no hidden screw. This actually has that shield plating. And so for here, you've got, what is that, a Phillips? Yeah, it's a couple small Phillips right there. So let me see, I should have a Phillips here. If I don't, Phillips are pretty easy to come by. It's a tri-wing. There we go. So this is the kit I have, came with the small Phillips that you need. So I'm going to unscrew it. I don't think it's worth, for most N64 games, don't think it's actually going to be worth doing all the deep dive into it. I don't know of many N64 games offhand that are worth the money and time that it takes to actually pull this apart. So I've got the shield taken off, and here's my board. Got a shield in the back I can clean. Then it's got this little plastic placeholder. Make sure your niche is pointed front. And going back to Super Nintendo, I mean, the chip is facing away from the front. Chip's facing away from the front, so it's kind of interesting they chose to do that. I don't understand why they put this in here. This seems very arbitrary, especially when most of the game systems. It's probably because there's that gap in there versus like your Super Nintendo and everything. This plastic holder is directly built into the plastic. That's probably why. But I don't need to clean this. The board itself, like I was showing you earlier, has the anchors right there. So back and front. So let's get this one assembled back together. We want to put everything in its place. Otherwise, this is not going to go together. What game is this anyway? This is War Gods. Great. And that's something I can screw up if I'm not going to screw it up. But you'd like to see me screw it up, wouldn't you? Okay, so come on. Come on. Did I put this? Do I have this backwards? So that needs to go right there. That needs to go in the middle. There we go. No, I do have it backwards. This feels like it's backwards. So it's not letting me put this in if I have that backwards. But this whole thing seems arbitrary to me. So is that going to fit down in there? See, there's the niche, and I thought the niche went in the front. I honestly have not taken apart an N64 game before because I haven't found the need to actually clean them. N64 games, usually I just take at face value, but figured while we're doing this, might as well, right? There we go. There we go. So, yep. A little tricky. You have to make sure those tabs are right in the bottom. And then, oh, did I get the shield? Oh, there's the shield. Gotta put the shield back on. So, shield goes on. Once the shield's on, we'll get that screwdriver again. Screw the anchors down for the shielding. I'm not going to pretend I understand why Nintendo put shielding on these games. It's not like your console cartridges are going to explode. Maybe they are. I do not have Master System, by the way, to show you. So, apologize for anyone who's looking forward to a Master System game. Sandwich it back in. And you can see in the bottom... Oh, wait, what did I just do there? Okay. So, tabs at the bottom. Let's get that in there. No Master System games to show you. Just SNES games, Genesis. Well, basically NES all the way through N64. And then that's it, because those are the major cartridge systems. I really wish they'd go back to cartridges. I mean, I liked the cartridge, and I know someone out there is going to say, optical media holds so much, why would we go back? The reason is because there's something about the cartridge. I really got to get this stable. Optical media is fine. Optical media definitely holds more, but there's something about the cartridge, maybe it's the nostalgia in me, that feeling this versus you know, something like this right here. I know this is just a blank CD, but still, this feels like if I throw this, it's gonna just shatter. This feels like if I toss this, you know, that cartridge inside, everything inside is just gonna be protected. It's just gonna take the hit. You know, that's the feeling I get cartridges versus. But at any rate, though, I guess this kind of turned into a video how to take apart everything. So we had our Genesis game, which fell over here, but we took apart our Genesis game. We took apart a Super Nintendo game, a regular Nintendo game, an N64 game. We took apart a Game Boy game. It's somewhere in here, but oh, here it is. We took apart our Game Boy game. You know, we took apart 2 Game Boy Advance games, and we also took apart a Game Gear game. So if you got to take anything apart to clean it, whatnot, check the board, make sure you're getting what you pay for. This is the way to do it. Again, a kit like this with all the screwdrivers, except for this one right here. This was a separate kit that I bought, but you know, all the screwdrivers I used over here and the brush. This runs you between like $12 and $15 on Amazon. Recommend it. A little magnetic bowl like this can run you a couple bucks at a store. I recommend this for keeping all of your screws in one spot so they don't roll away, disappear on you. Alcohol, small bottle like this, $1, and I got this little assortment right here for like $1 at the dollar store as well. So it's a pretty cheap way to clean your games. Pretty good way to get everything clean, figured out. And if you're a collector or you just really love to take care of your games, this is what you need. This is what you do. So yeah, Moral Gamer. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Support links below help us out. This is how to clean your games, I guess. Don't know what I'm going to call this when I post it, but try to post links to this stuff as much as possible. At any rate, thanks for watching. We will catch you all next time.